Hey, this is Mike Lindsay from Vital MX. We got another little bit of a news story that came out, or I guess an update on one. And for all those that didn't like the basement video that I had to do yesterday, well, we're bearing the cold to try to give you a better background. It's a whopping 31 degrees this morning in Montpelier, Idaho. And here I am. Anyways, the news. Ryan Dungey has verbally committed to all 12 rounds. We were curious at what point he would talk about this because as the day or two before the Dungey announcement came out from Red Bull KTM, the rumors we had heard when we did our first little video, we thought he was coming back was, hey, we think he's doing the whole Outdoor National Series. And even though it was announced as the first two, pretty much everybody in media has been talking about, like, no, we think he's going to go for the long haul. Like, it's kind of weird to see him train this hard and come out for just two races. Well, last night, he went on Steve Mathis's Pulp MX show, which, if you hear us, we reference that quite a bit. Steve always has a good Monday guest lineup. He actually had Jeremy Martin on last night as well, and that's Jeremy talked about his move to the Club MX team, kind of breaking news right as that press release came out. So they had Dungey on. I mean, you had a great host of people in the studio to ask him questions, such as Cooper Webb was there, Phil Nicoletti, Seth Rarick, some people that know him, pretty well or have spent some time with him. Steve himself on the show to chat with Dungey, and they ran through why the comeback. And he talks about, just feeling like he was missing the challenge. Not as much, they kind of talking like, so you miss the adrenaline, the race, and he said it's more the challenge on the mind, the body, the test setting up the bike. Just as Dungey seems to be as a physicist, he seems to be just a guy who likes to test himself, and that's, he talks about it with doing his coffee company and everything. I think he really likes to push himself and some of the other avenues and things he has tried. And he said ultimately he hasn't found something that's challenged him in the way that pro motocross has. So that is what kind of drew him back. He talks about riding the new bike back in October for the first time, the final prototype version before the production run was done. He said he really liked the bike outdoors. They do talk. It's kind of funny because you have Webb in studio who struggled with NSX. They talk a little bit about that. Dungey admits he's never rode in Supercross, doesn't know how it reacts there, but said for outdoors it was really enjoyable for him, and it got the mind thinking. You've probably heard rumors before that Dungey's tried to make comebacks. If we've tracked this correctly, we think up until this point he's kind of tried maybe 3 other times to put together some sort of a race for a year, race of Supercross only, race and outdoor only, after kind of riding and training has been, I think missing that challenge, as he states in the show. So he talks about just it hit him. He kind of worked on through the winter and into early season, even getting as far as DeCoster telling him he had to fly to Austria and ask Pitt Breyer if he could race outdoors. So he had to go straight to the man in charge of all basically KTM racing himself and try to put together. And of course they were stoked to have him back, but he does multiple times throughout the show. He kind of a little bit different verbiage every time, but he basically keeps saying, like, I'm committed to 12 in my head. Like, yeah, we're signed up for the first 2. And, they kind of joke about it. If it goes really badly, it might only be the first 2. But he said all the training he's doing, the preparation, where he's at mentally is he wants to do all 12. He wants to race the full season, that he can do it, that it's on the table. But just for now, again, they've announced as the first 2 for him and Crowley. But, yeah, Dungey, you can listen to the show itself. I'll drop a link in the description below. Again, you can also listen to Martin talk about his move to club and his reasoning. But, yeah, Dungey feeds out there that he wants to do all 12, and I think that's very likely, again, we see him do as we've been thinking this whole time, unless it just does not go well. The other interesting question that gets brought up after Webb talks to him about the motivation side, like why he's coming back, did he leave too early? Seth Rarick asks him, is this just a summer gig, or is there more to this? Are we staging more of a full-time comeback? And he pretty quickly shuts it down, says, no, this is just a summer gig, that he has no plans of racing beyond this. He even talks about earlier in the thing about not really wanting to ride Supercross anymore, test on it. He just said that he wants to give it this one go. Even just talks about being, tougher on his family and this time around, and it being a big decision just to go race outdoors. And so unless, things change again, maybe it goes well. Hopefully it goes well. Ryan says he's only lining up with the mindset of he wants to win. He wants to race for the championship. He says he feels good enough to do it on the bike, off the bike, everything. But you never know. Maybe he continues racing after this, but he seemed pretty dead set on it would be the 2022 AMA Pro Motocross Championship, and that's all she wrote, folks. So it's awesome. I think Webb points out one of the best is like, hey, people keep talking about, oh, what if he doesn't do good? Why would he do this? But he points it out really well. Like, people just need to appreciate it. Having Crowley and Dungey at the first 2 rounds, regardless of how they do, if it goes well or it doesn't go well, it's still freaking awesome. And Ryan's really trying to do something that is very, very, look, you look at like Christian Craig took a year or 2 sabbatical, came back, raced, but he did that early in his life. There's been, Bradshaw, a few guys that have taken small sabbaticals and come back, or small, momentary retirements, but nobody quite the length of Dungey, leaving on top, leaving for that long, and then trying to come back and be that competitive. So regardless, it's an amazing storyline. It's amazing for the sport, and it's going to be really fun to watch this summer. So again, really curious on your guys' thoughts on Dungey's mindset with this. If, what he's saying, does it shock you? What's your real expectations for him after hearing where he's at mentally with this, where he feels like he's at the bike again? This is a man that is near the top of many, many records in our sport. You'd think the guy would know where he stands lining up. Thanks for watching. Keep checking out the channel. Subscribe, like. Have a good one.